For this next discussion, I'm going to discuss desire in the body and the ways in which this affects us in our culture. First, we need to define what desire actually means. When you hear the word desire, what are the first few images that pop into your head? Depending on your sexuality, that answer can vary greatly. Desire is different for each and every person, yet there's much restriction placed upon people in expressing their desire. Back to the first thing you thought of. Was it the image of a man and a woman, able-bodied, relatively good-looking, possibly light-skinned, kind of has that movie star type image in your mind? If these were images that popped into your head, I wouldn't be so shocked. Our culture teaches us what proper and improper desire actually means, and these are commonly shown in films, TV shows, advertisements, etc., of what Western culture believes is the ideal for desire. Even if that's not your sexual preference, society teaches us what, again, improper and improper desire is, what it should be, shouldn't be, can't be, etc. Desire is another social construct within our society that tells us who to be attracted to and how we can use our bodies to fulfill our desires. One form of desire I wanted to take a look at today is homosexuality. Homosexuality is a person's attraction or desire towards the same biological sex as their own, such as a man and a woman, vice versa. Homosexuality has long been oppressed and controlled by various cultures in the world. In the United States, we have made many laws in order to control homosexuals from engaging in sexual activity, such as making sodomy illegal and requiring HIV-positive individuals to disclose their diagnosis to partners. While the latter may sound like a good thing, this is more designed to keep HIV-positive people from expressing sexual desire than it is to keep the public safe. Chris Bell's I'm Not the Man I Used to Be, Sex, HIV, and Cultural Responsibility confirms that denying the HIV-positive subject access to a variety of sexual experiences through the threat of litigation and incarceration is supremely ill-advised, because doing so initially does not work, and more importantly, it forecloses the possibility of pleasure. He continues to note that protection is the most important factor in these cases, not restricting and punishing individuals. By placing this responsibility on HIV-positive people, it places a social stigma on these individuals as deviants and further pushes them out of mainstream society. Bell acknowledges this by stating, "The real message of criminalization laws may be to everyone else. This troubling and complicated epidemic isn't your problem. It's that of monstrous outsiders who we can simply wall off from regular folks' lives." Information on HIV/AIDS has come a long way from when the first notices of the epidemic hit the United States in the 1980s. But unfortunately, the stigma surrounding carriers of the virus hasn't lessened as much. We can't see them as sexual beings anymore because of the potential risks associated with their sex lives, and therefore they're forever outsiders to our Western culture. As I previously mentioned, certain desires can be controlled through legal routes, but what about those that are simply a cultural taboo or something not talked about or approved of? Diana Torgie's The Straight Men Who Have Sex with Trans Women brings to light another sexual desire that is not often discussed. It's called transamorous, or people who are attracted to trans women or men. Torgie interviews two men, Alex and Matt, who talk about their sexual attraction in different lights. Matt, on the one hand, had been overwhelmingly ashamed of his attraction and was constantly worried about his identity as a straight man, and often wondered if this orientation made him gay or appeared to be gay. For over 30 years, Matt picked up trans sex workers to fulfill his desire in secret, but he realized that just the sex alone wasn't fulfilling his need for a relationship. Alex, on the other hand, did note that there is a taboo with liking straight or liking trans women with being identified as a straight man, but he didn't feel this overwhelmingly sense of shame like Matt did. Matt eventually does find love with a trans woman named Alicia and realizes that after all this time that he spent running from his desire, it was really just keeping him from fulfilling his own desires and his happiness in the end. Torgy states, one of the central issues to identity politics and the LGBT string of labels is the idea that people whose sexuality or gender differ from a heteronormative standard are inherently different, where those whose gender or sexuality conform to it are not. Meaning, if you're outside of heteronormativity, which is this baseline that our society creates of white, straight men and women, if you're outside of that, whether you identify as homosexual, trans, bisexual, and anything else, you're considered an outsider and not normal. And continuing on with her quote, rather than trying to normalize queer people, we could recognize that no one is normal. So each and every person has different desires and different needs that they want met. Doesn't necessarily make them weird or abnormal by not following that same heteronormative scale that we're used to seeing in our Western culture. In other words, instead of labeling everything as proper or improper, acceptable or not, we should be more accepting of all people's desires. After all, they do own their bodies and should have the right to do as they please with a willing partner. Although there are many more sexual orientations and oppressed sexual desires that we could take a look at as well today, I wanted to focus on these two more specifically because of their similarities within our culture. Both HIV-positive homosexuals and trans amorous men are kept from freely expressing their sexuality. The message comes across very clear with both of these cases, which is that men engaging in sexual activity with anything other than heterosexual women are deemed with having improper desires in our society and must either be physically kept from acting upon these desires or culturally shamed into secrecy. While there has been a lot of change over the recent years, such as the legalization of gay marriage across all 50 states, there's a lot to be done to the social construction of what we deem as proper or improper. One of these ways that we can fix this is by breaking down that heteronormativity line and saying that enough is enough and people can have whatever partner makes them happy.